Tonight, tens of thousands still missing in Venezuela as hopes of finding survivors fade by the hour. And as hope fades, anger grows over the slow response by the beleaguered government. In some places, international rescue teams have arrived, but for many trapped underneath the rubble, it will be too late.
I get home, I take a shower, and I still hear screams, I still smell this smell.
The United Nations say they're preparing for up to 10,000 deaths. I'll hear live from the man coordinating the emergency response. And also coming up, he's set to become Prime Minister, but how much do we really know about Andy Burnham's approach to foreign policy? How Israel is using fishing nets to counter the threat from Hezbollah drones. We'll have a special report. And the hunt for Mexico's Batman, the vigilante who's been delivering his own particular form of justice. That's all coming up on The World with me, Barbara Serra. Good evening. Search and rescue teams describe the 3 days after a devastating earthquake as the golden hours. 72 hours when communities are likely to be cut off and left to fend for themselves before rescuers arrive. 72 hours when those trapped under the debris can survive, especially if they have access to oxygen and food. That's why 33 people were pulled from under the rubble in Venezuela this weekend. But this is day 5. And as the hope disappears, emergency teams are preparing for thousands of deaths.
We are procuring, and this is something that has been agreed with the authorities here, 10,000 body bags.
Well, that's the man leading the UN's response, and I'll be speaking to him live in just a few minutes. The country's acting president says 25,000 emergency workers are involved in the rescue effort. But even as international aid arrives, many survivors are furious that they have still received no help. Our correspondent Martha Kellner has been hearing from some of them.
It's hard to comprehend and convey the sheer size of the search and rescue operation here. But if you look over here, this apartment building, at least 15 stories. Now, over on the other side, another apartment building, itself over 15 stories. In between, this vast space was all apartment buildings, social housing, in fact, full of families. And it's here that just the night before last, I witnessed a remarkable story. My team and I saw an 11-year-old boy being pulled from the wreckage alive. In the early hours of this morning, a similar story, a 21-year-old man pulled from the wreckage. But what I'm finding interesting today is that I'm not seeing any international search and rescue teams here. There's a smattering of Venezuelan emergency service workers, but it is mainly local people digging here. And they're all furious, very, very angry at what they say is the neglect of the Venezuelan government over a period of years, but particularly a lack of tools, a lack of electricity, and a lack of speed and haste to begin this search operation in the first place.
The only hope that we have is from God, and God is helping us with you guys. Please bring this message to the world that we need machines. We have more than 10,000 people that want to live, and we don't have the tools to bring them out.
Please, we have 6 days in this mess with bare hands and hammers and goddamn chisels. The government has so much machinery and they don't want to help us. But the ones who have money, yes, the ones that have money.
There's a huge amount of feeling here, though.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I get home, I take a shower, and I still hear screams, I still smell this smell, you know. Even I took 10 showers in a row, I'm feeling the same.
Well, a little earlier, I spoke to Colin Dick, Chargé d'Affaires at the British Embassy in Venezuela, about what help the UK is offering to Venezuela.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about what's been a very difficult few days for Venezuela. Can I just start by offering my sympathies again to all the Venezuelan people, the British government's sympathies to all the Venezuelan people. So the situation is becoming slowly clearer. As you know, we had two very big earthquakes last week with the epicenters to the west of Caracas. The authorities are working hard now, including with the British experts, to assess the scale of the damage, but we know it's extensive. We know buildings have collapsed. We know fatalities have already been announced. So there's, I think, at least 1,400 announced officially, but I think sadly there will be more and probably many more in the next few days.
And the United Kingdom has pledged $2 million to the reconstruction, the help, the rescue effort. Tell us a little bit about the way that money is being spent right now, basically what the United Kingdom is doing right now to help the people of Venezuela.
So we're working very hard with the authorities here in Venezuela and with our international partners to save lives. So most important for now, we have a big team of experts on the ground here. So that's a team of 70 or 80 from the UK government's International Search and Rescue Team. They are real experts in this. This is exactly the type of natural disaster that they work on all of the time. They are an incredible group of men and women doing an incredible job. They are now working here in La Guaira with the sniffer dogs, which are trained in saving lives, and tons of equipment, all of which was flown in on an RAF plane at the weekend. They got to work immediately on arrival, including on buildings close to the airport that collapsed just after they landed. But they're now based, as I say, here in La Guaira, which is one of the worst hit areas, and they are working 24/7 to help those worst affected. Over the next few days, they will start to work with the authorities and their partners here on some of the longer term recovery plans that Venezuela needs, because there aren't any quick or easy solutions to this. This is all part of an initial £2 million humanitarian fund from the British government. I think when we know the scale of the longer term challenges that Venezuela faces, then we can plan how we, the UK, might help in the next phases of that recovery too.
We're just a few days after the earthquakes, but of course the need will continue 3, 6 months, a year still to come. And so what is the United Kingdom's long-term commitment towards Venezuela after this disaster?
The UK does have a long history here in Venezuela, going back a couple of hundred years, but we have a close relationship now, and we are already thinking with the Venezuelan authorities and other like-minded partners here in Venezuela what our longer-term commitments will be.
What safeguards are in place to make sure that the money, that the aid actually reaches the people that need it and doesn't somehow get absorbed into a government that has long been accused of corruption?
I think that's a very good question. I think for now, our focus is entirely on the first phase of this, which is just saving lives, and the UK's commitment to do that is being delivered just through the UK government's International Search and Rescue Team. The funding that the UK has made available to do that is making a real difference with that team on the ground. What we will need to do over the course of the next few days or weeks is work out how we help contribute to Venezuela's longer term future. And that brings with it some complications, but we will work very closely with the authorities here and with all of our partners to make sure that we do that in the best possible way that we can.
In your opinion, has the Venezuelan government responded effectively to the disaster? What do you think they could and should have done?
Look, these are very difficult days for all Venezuelans, and I think the country faces a difficult future. And I can understand why there's a whole range of emotions being experienced here in these difficult days. But what I do know, and what I know from experience here in Venezuela, is that all Venezuelans are pulling together to help. And for now, the British government's only priority is to help the Venezuelan people who have been so badly affected.
Well, let's bring in Gianluca Rampolla, the UN resident coordinator in Venezuela. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. You're speaking to us from Caracas, but you were in one of the worst hit areas, La Guaria, just yesterday. Being on the ground, just give us an assessment of the devastation that you've seen in both areas.
I've been in La Guaira, I've been in Katia La Mar. We are actually set up down there, operating our coordination in support of the search and rescue teams and coordinating also the response to support affected population. I had my chance to, the last 2 days, to move around, and I mean, as you can see from the images, you have entire areas that have been flattened out by the shock waves on the 24th of this month.
We are moving now, we're at a critical point with that golden window of 72 hours has finished, and it's still a search and rescue operation, but increasingly recovery. What are the priorities according to you, and how are you finding the coordination of all the international teams that have begun arriving in Venezuela?
I would say a few things. First, all of the teams have arrived, not begun, they have all arrived. We have 27 countries, 44 teams, over 2,000 rescuers, over 100 dogs on the ground. They have been operating for the past 3 days, and the search and rescue operation will come. Indeed, the 72 hours window finished already since a day, but the reality is that we keep on finding people alive, and we will not stop until we have reached the last building that has been flattened out. The coordination is operating well given the circumstances, both among the international rescuers and with local civil protection.
You have prepared... Please go on.
No, you asked also about what else is going on. Obviously, as we continue searching, which is the priority, because it's through research and rescue that we save life, we need to cater for the tens of thousands that have been affected. And we are already starting to set up, together with government, temporary shelters with multi-services where we can provide for food, water, sanitation, and health checkpoints.
What are the priorities right now, though?
Absolutely that. Is keep on searching and provide for those that have been affected and are in a situation of vulnerability while providing for emergency health care for the injured. I'm talking about big numbers. I mean, only in injured, the official statistics is over 5,000 people injured.
I don't know if you were watching the report that played out just before you from our correspondent, Martha Kellner. She spoke to a lot of people that were very angry at the government because they said they came too late, that there was no equipment to try to get the people out from underneath the rubble and the debris. From your position on the ground, ultimately, especially over the past few days, the crucial ones, how well has the rescue operation been working?
I have sadly had the experience of being in two shakes of this size or even bigger. The challenge is always the same. Is first how fast you can reach the areas, and the geography of the area affected is not an easy one. It's a narrow stretch of land between sea and mountains, and key infrastructure have been affected. And you have sequence of buildings collapse. So it was an issue of how fast could you actually reach the last of the building, and the capacities, the existing capacity are what they are. This is why the government immediately asked for international assistance without political consideration where this assistance would be coming from. So yes, indeed, there is frustration, as there always is frustration. When you're a victim, what you want and expect is immediate help. Help did arrive as fast as it could humanly possibly arrive, and international solidarity has been outstanding, because within few hours we had the first international rescue team arriving.
And you mentioned that now all of the ones that are meant to arrive have arrived. So what is it that you need right now? What would you still be asking the international community for? How will those needs change in the next weeks?
First is continued attention, because what happens is that the attention remains for a short time and then it disappears. And the reality is that the most complex part will be dealing with those affected, that will require attention and solutions that are quite costly. And we're talking about a country that has just started very recently its journey of recovery and is now being hit by this natural disaster. So continued attention, support, and support based on needs and in demand, and clearly articulated within a strategy, and that we are going to be developing with international partners and with the authorities here.
It's very difficult, of course, at this point to have an idea of the death toll. The official one is a few thousand, but there's tens of thousands missing. I believe that you have prepared with 10,000 body bags, and of course, nobody will really know the exact number until much later. But what do you think the long-term impact on Venezuela will be of these earthquakes?
I will start with the psychological one. It's a trauma. It always is a trauma. And this is a trauma falling on a country that was starting to look forward with hope. So the first one is obviously a psychological one. The second is an economic one. Again, it's a country that has been in the last few years starting to stand up again and recover economically, and this will have an impact in terms of needs. And it's well known that the country was starting to discuss and engage in a restructuring of its public debt. Now the country will need additional support to actually deal with the costs of reconstructing this area of the country that's been affected.
Gianluca Rampolla, UN Coordinator for Venezuela. Sir, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and what you've seen with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching The World. Still to come, how will an Andy Burnham premiership affect the UK on the world stage? We'll discuss that next.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching.
Good to see you again. How are you?
Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back.
Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on.
I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist...
My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
...is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more.
Well, let's kick off.
And make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs?
He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News. People are directly protesting.
The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty.
War isn't pretty.
Andy Burnham could become the UK's Prime Minister within weeks. And while he's been vocal about his domestic agenda, not much is actually known about his plans to reshape Britain's place in the world.
From here on, every pound raised from taxpayers will work harder for them. And that approach will apply fully to the Defence Investment Plan. We will make sure that all eligible public contracts are subject to proper social value weighting. And we will do that to make sure British-based companies are in a better position to win those contracts. This change is essential, given the need to build our own resilience in places across the country in an increasingly uncertain world.
Building resilience in an uncertain world. That's all we got from Andy Burnham today in his first major set-piece speech. No hints yet about how he would deal with, say, the war in Iran or with Donald Trump, or even how he would adjust defence spending. Because tomorrow the government will publish its defence investment plan. And that includes a proposal to swap ageing warships for new hybrid vessels equipped to deploy drones.
At the end of the day, keeping your country safe is the first task. The second task immediately following that is making sure you have a strong economy. The interesting thing about defense spending is it keeps the country safe. There is a fierce urgency of now when you look at the Russian build-up and what China is doing.
He doesn't have any sort of foreign affairs experience. Does that concern you?
Not at all, because but what you see with most prime ministers, when they come in, except for when they have been defense secretary or foreign secretary before, but most of them will come in with, there's a lot of political clout, a lot of political experience. But when it comes to the international stage, you have the best advisors in this country.
Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, speaking to Cathy Newman a little earlier. Well, now we're joined by Ben Judah, former special advisor to David Lammy during his time as foreign secretary. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. Now, what do you think an Andy Burnham foreign policy might look like?
I think that he will have learnt from the mistakes that Keir Starmer made. The first mistake is Keir Starmer put too much emphasis on trying to cultivate a personal relationship with Donald Trump and present himself as a Trump whisperer, hoping that this would give him greater domestic and international credibility. Now, while the Prime Minister did achieve important things in his relationship with Trump, the fact that Trump turned on him as he's turned on almost every political relationship he's ever had internationally, including most recently on the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, shows the limits of that approach. So don't expect him to go so deep on the Washington charm offensive. I would expect him to put a great emphasis on representing British business and British investment. When I was working in the Foreign Office and travelled to the Gulf region, people in the leadership in the UAE and Qatar were very well aware of the model that he pioneered in Manchester of promoting investment and long-term partnerships with sovereign wealth funds. And he's known in those countries as a great salesman for Manchester. And one of the reasons that he's on the verge of becoming Prime Minister is in an otherwise stagnant Britain, Manchester has actually grown faster than the United States in recent years. So those are the two key things that we should expect.
Well, speaking of long-term partnerships, of course, there's one that's been going on and was severed with the EU that Keir Starmer was trying to rehabilitate a little bit. Let's just hear another thing that Mark Rutte said specifically about Keir Starmer now.
I'm in this role now, so there's no vacancy.
Right. There's a conflict of interest there. Yeah. But I mean, you're sad to see him go as Prime Minister.
I genuinely like the guy. He is decent, he knows what he is doing, he is influential, he has purpose. When it comes to Ukraine, for example, the fact that this country is leading the coalition of the willing, is leading the Ukraine Defence Contact Group, is now leading, together with France, on the Strait of Hormuz and regaining the freedom of navigation when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, This prime minister is really driving that.
And back to Ben Judah, there, Mark Rutte, speaking very warmly about Keir Starmer. He also said in another part of the interview that he was confident that there would be continuity of purpose between the leaders. How important do you think personality is? Rutte obviously had a friendly relationship with Keir Starmer. And how do you think that Andy Burnham's style, which is perhaps a little bit more relaxed, will do on the international stage?
So Keir Starmer was really good at having real political, strategic conversations with the European leadership about where he wanted Ukraine to be in 5 years and in 10 years, and really nailing down what that team of countries needed to do militarily, domestically, and internationally to surge that support for Ukraine. The European leadership, however, was waiting for a conversation with Keir Starmer that never came about where he really wanted the relationship between the EU and the UK to be in 5 and in 10 years. Where did he really want to get with Europe beyond a reset? Where was the destination? Now, I think that they are going to get that kind of political conversation with Andy Burnham on what he wants the destination to be.
One of the issues on the international stage that was probably the most divisive for Labour was the war in Gaza, where we did see Keir Starmer, in a sense, have to move the party's position. Now, there is a sort of tenuous ceasefire, although the conflict is far from over, but it's not quite as tense as it was a few years ago. Do you think that that situation, that particular conflict, may still prove something that is divisive for Andy Burnham within the party as well as nationally?
Now, the Prime Minister's supporters will say that Keir Starmer has done a lot of the hard work to present Andy Burnham with a good situation to build from. Net immigration is coming down. There are some green shoots of recovery in the economy. And Keir Starmer had to navigate a very, very difficult sort of consequences in British politics and across the Middle East of the wars that began in the horrendous massacre of October the 7th. The Labour Party is now in a much better position than it was a year ago or 18 months ago. The Labour Party has recognised the state of Palestine, and the Labour Party has come together in a far stronger way around that position now. So really, where the relationship goes next will depend on the outcome of the next Israeli elections. If you're going to see Netanyahu win again, that extremist coalition entrench, then there are going to be louder and louder calls within the Labour Party and across Parliament for the UK to block all trade with settlements in the West Bank. Now, if there is a return to the kind of government that we saw before Bibi Netanyahu's latest coalition, a broad-based centre and left coalition, including an Arab party, then you can expect a different approach in which the UK and European Union powers will want to stabilise and strengthen that government, which will not have extremists in it.
Apologies, we're running out of time. We're going to have to leave it there. Former Special Advisor to David Lammy, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you. This is The World with me, Barbara Serra. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the new technologies being employed by Israel in their wars in the Middle East.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter? Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking.
Thank you so much.
Trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
Well, we have just over 24 hours until the Supreme Court justices down tools for the summer. And they're using that time to deliver some pretty significant rulings. They refused an appeal from the US president, who wanted the court to overturn a jury's finding that he sexually abused and later defamed the writer E. Jean Carroll. He'll now need to pay her $5 million. Let's get more now with our US correspondent David Blevins. David, quite a lot. I mean, also a ruling on mail-in ballots. But let's start with this one on a sexual abuse case.
Defeats for the president today, the first related to the writer E. Jean Carroll. She had alleged that back in 1996, Donald Trump sexually assaulted her in the dressing room of a department store. And in 2023, a civil jury ruled in her favour, finding that he had sexually abused her and later defamed her by describing her allegations as a con job and a hoax. Now, lawyers for the president had argued that she didn't report this alleged offence to police at the time and waited until he was back in office to cause him a maximum political damage. They also alleged that the jury should not have been allowed to hear what they described as unrelated evidence in this case. But the Supreme Court, which is of course conservative leaning, has decided not to get involved in this case, not to embark upon a review. The president obviously not very impressed by that. He posted online that he was surprised, described it again as a fake case brought against me by a woman I never met, and then went on to say he would continue to fight against what he called a weaponisation and lawfare case against him with all of his power and strength. But of course, this was the highest court in the land, the final recourse for him. It means the findings stand and the claim for damages stands as well. The other big defeat for him, as you say, was on mail-in ballots, what other people describe as postal votes. He has long argued that the system of postal voting in the United States is open to fraud, and without any evidence also claimed it was the reason he lost the 2020 election to Joe Biden. But the Supreme Court has ruled that mail-in ballots or postal votes can be counted after Election Day if they are postmarked before Election Day, and that avoids a serious upheaval in the run-up to the midterm elections.
So a busy day for the court and not a great one for Donald Trump. And there's another important judgment expected tomorrow as well.
Yeah, the final day of the Supreme Court term. We're expecting judgments on transgender women taking part in female sports. We're also expecting a big ruling on campaign finance. But I think the most significant one will be on birthright citizenship. For 150 years, almost every child born in the United States has had the right to be a citizen of the United States. On his very first day back in office in January of last year, Donald Trump signed an executive order in a bid to overturn that. He argued that Amendment 14 to the US Constitution should not apply to children born to people here illegally or people here on temporary visas. Now, that's the big decision the Supreme Court has had to make. It matters so much to the president. He became the first president in history to attend oral arguments in the Supreme Court. You may remember that back in April. He wasn't very impressed by those arguments, walked out and later posted online that the United States is the only country stupid enough to have birthright citizenship. So whatever way the ruling goes, it's going to have an impact on his presidency.
It definitely will. David Blevins with the latest on that from Washington. David, thank you. Well, more talks between the US and Iran are expected to take place in Doha in Qatar this week, with both countries reportedly agreeing again to stop tit-for-tat strikes. And in Israel, the military is exploring new strategies, from fishing nets to fragmenting bullets to thwart the threats posed by Hezbollah drones. Sky's Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons has this report.
Drones are now shaping many of our conflicts. But why?
where they're fast, they're nimble, agile, and that means that sometimes they can just appear out of nowhere.
The whole concept of war is being changed under us.
So how do you handle this threat? What's it got to do with this fishing boat? And how do you adapt to a drone war era? This has nothing to do with you putting this on, but someone is doing a jamming signal. In Israel, they think they've got some of the answers. It's a tale of today's warfare, but it starts here, in the tranquility of the Sea of Galilee, on board the only fishing boat that's out on the water. Menachem is the captain. He's been catching fish here for more than 40 years, always on board this same boat. He treats the fish like a benevolent rival to be pursued and outwitted.
This is really hunting. It's fishing, but hunting.
So it's more of an intellectual, it's you against the fish.
That's the right. They want to escape and I want to catch them. It's a fair fight.
He's seen weather and war. Missiles have soared over his boat. And recently, a friend sent him a picture of Ukrainian troops sheltering under nets to protect themselves from drones. Menachem reacted, offering Israeli soldiers a huge pile of nets to use as protection.
I try to save a life. I want fair fight. I don't want to see kids dead from droughts come to Metula and Kiryat Shmone. No way, no way, no way.
And the nets have a purpose. Instead of catching fish, they're now used to catch explosive drones. Well, groups like Hezbollah and Hamas use drones of about this size. They're often what they call FPV, which means they film what they're attacking. Now, they're also often controlled by a fibre optic cable coming out the back, like a string on a kite, which means they're impossible to jam. And that is why nets like this have proved so effective, because the drone gets tangled in the net before it can hit its target, which means even if the explosion does go off, it explodes inside the net. Menachem has supplied enough fishing nets to cover more than a dozen football fields. He says it's his duty. You think you're helping your country? That's what makes you happy, right?
Make me happy to save a soldier that other this soldier have or a small kid or a girlfriend or a girl that is engaged with her, or parents, they wait to the kids to come home for making the Shabbat, to make the life more.
Hezbollah produces these slick videos to promote its use of FPV drones. These are attacks on Israeli troops and weapons. The drones have also struck homes in northern Israel. Their impact is enormous. And the Israeli military uses huge numbers of drones too, here dropping an explosive into a building in Gaza, which then blows up. That's why protective nets are becoming a more common sight. In northern Israel, we saw this Israeli military vehicle being fitted out with fishing material. It looks crude, let's be honest, it is crude, but it's also seen as the best tactic. But does it really work? The Israeli military invited us to a base where they test new ideas. So here's what happens when a drone carrying a dummy explosive hits a net.
Got it, guys. Got it.
So it does work. It's cheap and it's reliable. You can't hack into a fishing net after all.
I think one of the challenges is to provide a cost-effective solution, as you just seen, like the net, it's a cost-effective solution. It's a pretty simple solution, but we definitely try to provide several layers of protection and to make sure it will be, again, cost-effective.
The challenge here is to keep innovating as drones get faster, tougher, and more resilient.
It's an ongoing race, like a tennis game. One side is serving, the other are defending, and It's a game that we're gonna keep playing, but we are finding solutions, and you've seen some of them.
So the nets aren't the only solution. What, for example, can you do when a drone is flying at soldiers? Well, you could try to shoot it down. The problem is that normal bullets fired one at a time in a straight line are almost bound to miss. So you need something new. Well, this is where they're testing out different ways of countering Hezbollah drones. And you can see the effort that goes into this. There are shell casings around here, and that is the remains of a drone that was shot down on this range just a few hours ago. And what they discovered is the most effective ammunition they've invented is one that's called split ammunition. It comes out of the barrel of a gun and then breaks into 4 or 8 pieces. And that ammunition has already been responsible for shooting down between 100 and 200 Hezbollah drones. Drone warfare is hardly unique to Israel and Hezbollah. It's a familiar part of life in Ukraine and beyond. Global military spending on drones has increased by an estimated 400% over the past 5 years. The technology is constantly improving. So we know that these drones are incredibly effective on the modern battlefield, but even they have a vulnerability because they rely on GPS systems to navigate themselves. The same technology that's used in a mobile phone or in a car. And that can be jammed, which is why here at this high-tech company, they're working on a system that means that even if someone is jamming this, then the drone can still complete its mission. A lot of people think of military conflicts, and they think of huge planes, they think of missiles, they think of troops. But this little circuit board is making a fundamental difference.
The whole concept of war is being changed under us. We are moving from big planes to small planes or small drones, whatever. Everything is becoming smaller. And I don't care, the small drone will cost me, I don't know, the big ones will cost me $10,000, $15,000. A plane will cost millions, hundreds of millions, as a matter of fact. I can employ 1,000 drones. What do you care?
And here's how it works in real time. We asked the company to demonstrate their product. What we didn't know was that someone was already jamming the signal right then.
So the right side is going to be the unprotected receiver, and the left side of the screen is going to be the protected receiver. So actually we caught a good scenario where there's jamming in the air, interference, and then we have the unprotected receiver is completely dead, has no idea where it is, as opposed to the protected receiver, which carries on.
So this is a great illustration of today's warfare.
Yep.
It's about frequencies, and it's about little boxes countering each other. It's like you said, it's not about F-35s and battleships.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's about something happening on a screen. Effectively, drones are replacing people. So the control of drones is fundamental to modern warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to control those drones remotely or by fiber optics.
Will we get to a point where drones will be the dominant?
Yes.
Are we there now?
Not yet. Not yet, but we are on the way for that.
Back on the Sea of Galilee, and the idea of drone warfare might feel distant. But remember, nets like these are now part of the landscape of modern war, and they're not the only reminders. Well, here's another example of how high-tech and low-tech can clash. We've just been told that the GPS on our boat is not working. And inevitably, that means it's being jammed by the Israeli military, who are carrying out an operation at the Lebanese border 20 miles away. In Israel, the echoes of war are never far away. Today, Menachem has a healthy haul of fish. Recently, his nets pulled up a chunk of an Iranian missile. The water here is his domain. The skies above us all may yet belong to the drones. Adam Parsons, Sky News, on the Sea of Galilee.
This is The World with me, Barbara Serra. Coming up next, is it the end of the road for Britain's favourite fruit? Ed Conway gives us his take.
Liberation Day.
By popular demand, here we are.
Donald Trump. It is quite the story. Wherever it goes, on Trump 100, we go with it.
Can you tell us who you're looking for?
Unbelievable we've come to this.
Are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal?
Not like you said it.
From the UK.
Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
It was 10 feet from him, and all of a sudden the shot's rang out.
People impacted.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Join us wherever you get your podcast.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash.
Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes. Sky News, the full story first. I'm Greg Milam and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
This is insane. This was a bustling residential area. I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
Hey, there's a lot of firing going on.
Can you explain to me why? We're journalists, sir.
Let's go. Watch way. Right, we're going to get in. Right. Get in. Get in. Get in.
We just want to ask you a few questions about your involvement with ISIS. Next step for them, quite often, is getting on a boat and sailing illegally over into Europe.
Es un solo procesamiento, una sola sacada.
Whoa. Whoa. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Oh my goodness. If you weren't affected, you'd be a bit of a strange person.
Turn off the camera. Turn around and go away. Okay, but
listen, I told you 3 times.
They saw 2 guys, 2 bad people.
There's an absolutely packed dinghy.
that is what it's like. Sometimes you have to put in an awful lot of hard work. It's worth doing. I suppose it is what we do.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on.
I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
...is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more.
Well, let's kick off.
And make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs?
He's coming out! What more do you need?
Now, I want to turn our attention to a humble but very nutritious fruit, bananas. Our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, has delved into its history, the rise of disease, and what its price tells us about globalization.
What is the world's, and for that matter, this country's, favourite fruit? Well, if you look at the statistics, up until the 1980s, there was a clear winner. This is basically showing you in the UK, and it's a similar story in many other countries, for instance, America, the quantity of various different types of fruits that we consume. And that, back to the 1980s, apples was by far and away the favourite fruit in the UK. And then bananas and oranges were down here. But look at what happened after then. So after the mid-80s, apples and oranges kind of, trended down a little bit. But the real story here is what happened to bananas. Look at this. Look at the line for bananas. Going to become King Banana from 1996, the favourite fruit in the UK and indeed around the world. And if you look, this is something I like to think of as the apple-banana paradox. If you look at the economics behind this, this is really an economic story, what explains that big rise in banana consumption. And it comes down, dare I say, to price. This is showing you the price of your average apple and your average banana going back again. So this goes back to the 1960s. And you can see for most of this period, the price kind of rose in lockstep with each other. But look at what happened after around 2000. The price of apples carried on rising, but the price of bananas, have a look at this. It's actually lower now than it was a few decades ago for the average price of a banana. And why is that? It's because of globalisation. It's because we've worked out these extraordinary supply chains that bestride the globe that take something that is produced on the other side of the world. Here it is. This is the main variety of banana that we have these days, the Cavendish. And when I say the main variety, 99% of all bananas that are consumed in this country and elsewhere, in America, for instance, are this single variety. And it is especially good at being shipped across the ocean, turning up green and then getting ripened in this country and, turning up in the supermarkets at a really low price. But here's the interesting and slightly scary thing. That didn't used to be the only variety of banana, for the most part, that we consumed. It used to be something else called the Gros Michel, the Big Mike as it's known. And what happened to the Gros Michel? Well, there was a disease called Fusarium wilt R1, which basically destroyed the vast majority of this particular species and variety of banana around the world. And that is showing you the rise of that last disease. And here is the worrying thing. So we are all dependent for those cheap bananas on the Cavendish variety of banana. And it so happens that there's another type of disease that has come along quite recently and is starting to rise, raising the question, will the vast majority of bananas be wiped out by this new disease? And what happens next? It is one of many issues we are covering in the latest episode of Stuff Matters with me, Ed Conway. It's our new podcast. You should go and check it out.
And you can listen to the full episode of Ed's podcast, Stuff Matters, by scanning the QR code on your screen now or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, before I go, I want to show you some pictures from Mexico, where a mysterious vigilante has been taking the law into their own hands. Dubbed the Mexican Batman, the unidentified local has been chasing down suspected motorbike thieves and duct taping them to lampposts. At least 5 men have been found bound to street poles with their mouths taped and the word thief scribbled across their faces in the past 2 weeks. Police have said that the men found tied up are being treated as the victims, with several showing signs of assault. A police manhunt is underway. There you go, the Mexican Batman. And that is it for tonight. We'll be back at 9 tomorrow. The Wrap with Gillian Joseph is coming up next. Thanks for watching. Good night.